Welcome, everyone, to It's a Wrap with Rap. I am your host, Ron Rappaport. This podcast features people who have overcome life's challenges and adversities, people who can inspire and motivate, and people who can educate us on an assortment of topics. My guest today is Dale Wallace from Manchester, England, who is an advanced level 3 personal trainer as well as a corrective exercise specialist, weight loss specialist, and group personal trainer specialist. Dale works with people approaching 30 and beyond who need to break their weight loss plateau and skyrocket their energy and confidence. Dale also hosts his own podcast called the Do the Work Podcast. Welcome, Dale, to the podcast.
Thank you, Rap. It's a pleasure to be on. Much appreciated, and thank you very much for that awesome introduction as well.
Our pleasure. Dale, what motivated you to become a personal trainer?
So for me, it's probably different to a lot of personal trainers. Often the route can be kind of, being overweight to wanting to lose weight. And with me being a weight loss coach, I think, or a specialist, people tend to think it comes from that route. But for me, it was being the small, skinny guy, to be fair. It was very much being and feeling like I was just, smaller and not as big as the people around me, sort of being in, sports changing rooms and things like that. And always wanting to be a little bit bigger and thicker, and that got me into weight training, and then that sort of motivated me to be able to help other people feel sort of happier, healthier, more confident with the body.
What requirements did you need, Dale, to obtain an advanced level 3 personal trainer as well as a corrective exercise specialist?
Yeah, so I did my personal trainer came first. The level 3 is the minimum requirement that you need to sort of work within a gym as a PT within the UK. The qualification differs sort of in different countries, if you will. To do that, it was a 10-week course. It was an intensive sort of Monday to Friday, full day course that consisted of, theory exams and then practical exams and things like that. It is a qualification that once you've got it, you've got it, but the expectation is that you continue your learning and development after that. One of the things I wanted to develop within was kind of corrective exercise, which you've mentioned there, which essentially is arming me with the ability to kind of help people that come to me with little niggles or little injuries, or maybe just sort of imbalances or tightness in different area. That particular course was an online course, so that was lots of online learning and reading followed by an exam, which again then has just left me, much better armed to suit to help my clients.
What is the approach you take to create long-term change?
Yeah, so for me, it's really, really important that we focus in on habits. So the big approach I get people to do is kind of start really small. People often come to me with massive, big sort of goals and aspirations, and it's quite important that as a coach, you manage that expectation, but still motivate them enough to want them to make big change. And the big way I do that is by breaking it down into habits and daily actions, and starting small, not saying go to the gym every day or, go and sort of kill yourself in the gym and make yourself sick. It's a case of, right, where am I now? And what can I do today, or what can I do this week to start moving forward and start moving in the right direction rather than trying to go, full speed ahead, if you will.
Dale, what are the main reasons people seek a personal trainer for?
The reason that people tend to come to me initially is weight loss, but it's usually much deeper than that. And this was talked about in a course that I was on at the weekend. I attended a mental health an exercise coach course to again arm me to help people better in the psychological sense and with their struggles as well. So people tend to come and they say it's weight loss, but it's usually body confidence. It's usually kind of to improve their overall performance in life and overall health, how they feel in their clothes, how they are with the partner, or to maybe go and seek a partner. It usually goes much deeper than what that surface level initial reason is.
Yeah, that makes sense. How would you advise someone to get started on their weight loss journey?
So I would say if you started on your own, to, as I said earlier, start small. So start as small as you could possibly think. So if you're someone currently who, sits on the sofa and binge watches Netflix and, eats far too much of maybe what you probably shouldn't do for weight loss, it probably wouldn't be to go to the gym 5 days a week. It probably wouldn't even be to go to the gym. It might be to say, why don't you commit to going for a walk every day for 15 or 20 minutes? Obviously, it depends on the person and where they're at, and we've got to meet them where they're at. But I would start as small as possible. I know you mentioned you wanted to ask me on nutrition later, but I would just begin by making small changes rather than trying to change everything at once. You hear about sort of yo-yo dieters and stuff like that. That comes from trying to do everything and go all in, and then probably taking 2 steps back, 1 step forward and 2 steps back.
Right.
So commit to something that you can do and you can achieve, but that just takes you slightly out of your comfort zone.
How do you keep your clients motivated?
For me, it's regular goal setting. So I have a meeting with my clients as a group every quarter, literally with the quarters of the year, so Q1, 2, 3, and 4. And at the beginning of that, we set some goals for that quarter. That will often be a breakdown of someone's long-term goal, but we break it down into a much smaller chunk so that it seems achievable. It stretches them enough for it to be challenging and motivating, but so that it seems achievable. They set those goals, they send them over to me, I hold them accountable to them goals, but often they share it with the community as well. I find that being inside a community of other like-minded people really motivates people and inspires people, but then supports them at the same time when they're struggling a little bit.
Where do most people go wrong, Dale, in trying to lose weight?
Yeah, so touched on it earlier, I would say, with regards to that. So for me, I think they try to do too much too soon, and they expect too much too soon. So someone thinks they might start a diet and I need to lose 10 pounds in a week. They usually start too late. Maybe the wedding's next month, or maybe the holiday's next month, and they try and do it and cram it all in. And then they might achieve a little bit and feel a little bit better, but they go back to the normal habits after. So it's going back to those habits again. It's going back to starting small again. And it's, yes, commit to it, and yes, make a good effort to it, but don't set expectations that you can't stick to. So set something that's better than where you are now and that moves you in the right direction, but doesn't take you so far out of your sort of current lifestyle that you can't stick to it long term.
So, Dale, tell us how you help people approach their nutrition and nutrition is a big part of this, I'm sure.
Yeah. So nutrition is it gets complicated with regards to weight loss, and often it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. The most important thing to achieve weight loss is that you're in a calorie deficit, which means essentially you're expending more calories than you're taking in through food and drink. There are a lot of systems, and they're probably similar sort of diet clubs and particular diets that people say you should follow. And there's a lot of information bias in a sense of people pushing their beliefs on everyone else, when the best thing that you can do with your nutrition is focus on eating probably less processed foods than what you are now.
Right.
Probably creating more of a plan and a structure on what you're going to have. My recommendation to clients is that because in most cases they need to, they increase the protein intake. There's a number of benefits that come with that, which include obviously getting enough protein to recover from your training sessions and repair and rebuild. It also helps with fulfilling your appetite, which is obviously good for people that find themselves quite hungry. Again, if you're eating more things like that and manage your appetite better, you're not going to be as hungry in between meals. You're not going to snack and do all the things that probably harm your weight loss goals or aspirations, if you will.
Right.
So for me, important things, reduce down the processed foods, be consistent in your meal times, and make a plan. If you make a plan, you're more likely to stick to it. If you leave something to chance, don't prepare your meals, there's then a good chance that you're going to be, in the wrong shops and making decisions with fast foods because you just haven't already made a commitment.
Right. Do you recommend nutrition supplements? Why or why not?
As a rule of thumb, I would say I don't recommend, if someone comes to me, unless they're sort of deficient in something, then I wouldn't necessarily say you must take this, you have to have this. There is a big push within the fitness industry from a lot of people to, again, sort of push things on people and tell them they need it when potentially they don't. Most people can get improvements in their health and their diet and their overall lifestyle by simply, as I mentioned, less processed foods, more fruits, more vegetables, those kind of things. Doing those things, focusing on improving your sleep, going to bed at a consistent time, waking up at a consistent time, would have more of a benefit than the supplements would do. In particular cases, people might have deficiencies, at which point then it might be that got recommended by a dietitian or a nutritionist, potentially, if it's an extreme case. But something like a creatine supplement would be something I would recommend for most people. A lot of people will be deficient in vitamin D. That would be something that I might sort of blanket recommend, if you will. And maybe a multivitamin or omega-3s or 6s if someone doesn't have an intake of a lot of healthy fats, as we would say, in the diet. But they would be probably the ones I would recommend for the average person.
Yeah, creatine, supplement, vitamin D, omega.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Talk to us about the importance of habits.
So this is a vast subject, to be fair, and what we've got to think about with habits is what we do every day shapes our results. And I like to say the quote of what you do today doesn't matter, but what you do every day for a long period of time matters more than what you could know. So we can make a one-off decision to go to the gym today, and that in the grand scheme of things means absolutely nothing. But if we do that combined over a period of time, then that's going to make a hell of a change to our mental health, to our physique,
Right.
fitness, and all of that. So it's more about what we can do every day, not what we can do once in a while, which is why we want to really build those foundation, those habits. And I suppose you could say non-negotiables in a way.
Yeah.
If you can commit to, getting outside for 20 minutes and going for a walk every day, then that would be a good thing to do. And what you'll find is when you start with habits, you build momentum as well. And you can do it in the other way. So we can build, once we get started, it gets easier to keep going. Once we've been to the gym once, it's easier to go the following day and the following day. But at the same time, if we get out of the habit of doing that, it's harder to then get going.
It's hard to get back in. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it happens the same with diet. Once you get moving and eating, you go shopping and you get, as you would say, your groceries or your food in, it's easier to then have their meals and it builds on itself. But once you start, I'll have a takeaway tonight or what have you, you then get on that slippery slope, so to speak, of then also creating a bad habit, if that makes sense. Or maybe a nicer term might be a habit that's not congruent with your goals. So it's good to recognize that there are habits that are congruent to your goals and the habits that aren't. We want to focus more on the ones that are. The only other thing I would touch on there is it's very difficult to just stop doing something. So with regards to your habits, if you're wanting to stop something, it's very important to start something else. You're be aware that when people stop smoking, they tend to put weight on, or they tend to start maybe drinking or whatever that might be. So it's really important to make sure if you're stopping something that you do daily that's, not serving you, so to speak, what are you going to replace that habit or that time with? And it might be going to the gym, it might be eating healthier, it might be going out for a walk, but it's really important to have something else to focus on. Because if you're thinking about that one thing, all you're going to do is continue to think about that thing. And
so you're talking about find a suitable substitution.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Dale, we all know diet and exercise is the key. What do you consider a good time period is to exercise? And talk about the effects of over-exercising.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the easy answer to that would be, it depends. And it kind of does depend. My personal sort of guidance with regards to my clients would be you should be in the gym or exercising somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour optimally. However, if you're someone who's, seriously restricted on time, then it's not harmful to do slightly less, 20 or 30 minutes. It's just not optimal. So the optimal answer to your question would be 45 minutes to an hour from my experience. And that's what I do for my own training as well. In terms of frequency, to answer that, I would recommend for most people somewhere between 3 to 5 times per week. If you're more of a beginner, you could probably get away with a lower frequency. If you're
Okay.
more advanced, you could get away with a higher frequency. And then with regards to, you mentioned sort of too much or overtraining. Often people are sort of more under recovered than overtrained, if that makes sense. They don't give themselves enough time to kind of recover.
Yeah.
That can be solved through your diet, that can be solved through your sleep. But if people are just, training hell for leather 6 to 7 days per week, you probably might recommend that they could reduce the frequency of the sessions down. They might be able to maintain the intensity, but it very much depends on the goal as well, and what we would say is the training age of the person, so how long they've been training. But yeah, as a rule of thumb, 3 to 5 times per week, and 45 minutes to maybe 60 minutes.
Dale, what's the best time of day to work out? You hear people say best to work out in the morning. Other people say later in the day. You have any idea on that?
Yeah, I've kind of got two different answers. I'm gonna sort of sit on the fence a little bit as well. My personal preference is afternoon. I'm quite lucky in my job. I can build my days around where it's most optimal for me to train. And the reason I choose that time is because I've got the most energy. I've had a few meals in me by that point, and the performance in my session is at its best. However, for most people that have office jobs, they work 9 to 5. I would argue that the morning is the best time to train.
Good
Uh,
morning. Okay.
you're getting them endorphins as the day begins. You're feeling successful once you've been to the gym. Therefore, the rest of your day is probably going to be built around better decisions. And also, the other side of that is you're not getting till 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. You've got all day to decide then not to go to the gym. You've
Right.
already conquered that beast. You've already done it, and you're feeling successful for the day ahead. You can go home with the kids, with the family, whatever that might be, and you're also probably not in a packed gym in the evening at peak time. So yeah, I would say at the time at which you think you will train optimally in terms of performance. But if you don't have the opportunity to do that, for example, during the day, the middle of the day, then I would say the morning's the best time.
Now, for those of us who cannot do weight resistance training for whatever reasons, what other aerobic exercises do you recommend? And can they get by with just doing cardio?
Yeah, so again, it depends on the goal. I would always try and, if I can, get some form of resistance training in someone's program. And that doesn't mean it has to begin with weights. It could be some basic body weight movements. If someone's really struggling, it could be simple as standing up or sitting down from a chair, for example, to sort of mimic, for example, what would be a squat. So there are always movements that you can kind of do to lower the load and the intensity. You can use things like resistance bands and stuff like that. I would try and get some resistance training in there. Again, it would depend on what the issue was with the person. That being said, cardio is still very, very effective. If someone is struggling to deal with any level of load or intensity or impact, something like swimming or walking, something as simple as that can be great. We want to essentially take our muscles and our joints through as much of a range of motion as we can. We want to avoid being as sedentary as we can for as long as possible, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Right.
So if someone sits down all day, my recommendation wouldn't be to go and cycle, for example, and sit down on a bike.
Right.
It would be maybe to get in the pool or go for a walk, and probably get outside ideally. So again, my recommendation would vary on the person, their lifestyle, their occupation, but I would always recommend something is better than nothing. So yeah, if all they can do is something small, let's go do that.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned swimming and walking because that's primarily what I do.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
I haven't been lifting weights in a while because I really didn't want to get back in the gym with with all the COVID and all that stuff. So,
Yeah. I think there's people that they'll still feel like that. I don't think gyms yet are back to, certainly my gym's not quite back to as busy as it was pre-COVID. There's still a lot of sort of, anxiety, I suppose, around it, which is understandable.
yeah. How do you handle clients who complain of chronic pain that keeps them from working out?
Yeah, so again, it depends on the sort of the locality of the pain and I suppose where it's originated from. So I find that a lot of people that come to me who struggle with maybe back pain or tightness in the hamstrings and in the hips and things like that, that can often come from how they've spent most of their life, which is often where I am now, sat down in front of a laptop or a computer. So the most important thing that these people can do, as I touched on before, and as I just said to yourself, then is get moving, even if it's just a case of walking or swimming. We want to take joints through full ranges of motion. Often, things like stretching and foam rolling can be recommended. That's not going to do any harm as such, but it's maybe not the most optimal thing to do. We're designed to move as much as we can, so I would recommend for those people to just start by moving, even if it's small little movements, like if they're housebound, for example. Can you walk up and down the stairs a few times? Can we get the heart rate not maybe
Yeah.
not racing as such, but elevated a little bit? Can we get those joints moving, hips, knees, etc.? And whilst we do that, we get the blood flow there. And when we do that, then we can kind of take out some of the tension that's built up in those muscles that often can cause that chronic pain. However, if it's something that stems from a particular injury, that would be obviously specific to what that is.
Right. So explain to us the importance of discipline and motivation. And tell us how your methods differ from other personal trainers.
Yeah. So discipline and motivation, I suppose, two separate entities. Motivation for me will, or for anyone in that matter, how I see it, motivation comes and goes, and we can't necessarily rely upon always feeling motivated. The way I describe this to my clients is it's kind of like a little cycle, if you will. And the only way to really trigger true motivation is to get results. But what people tend to do is they wait for the motivation to arrive before they start doing something. So I like to remind people that the most important thing you can do is take an action regardless of how you feel. As a result of taking action consistently, you will start to see results. And as a result of you seeing those results, you're then going to start to feel motivated. That will then inspire you to continue to take action. But it starts with taking action, because motivation can come and go. You'll probably know yourself. Some days you feel motivated to go out and do your swim or do your walk, and some days you don't. But what you'll always feel once you have done it, if you've done it when you didn't feel good for it, is that you remember the feeling that you had after. And it's really important to do that for sure. And then the discipline is, I suppose, having that strong mindset that you're going to do it anyway. You're going to do it regardless of how you feel, because you know that at the end of that, that's going to spark some feel good hormones, if you will, and it's going to spark a little bit of motivation to do it again. So it's important to remember that the discipline has got to kind of overpower that motivation. And if we look at the top performers in fields, whether it's business or sports or whatever that might be, they are incredibly disciplined, and they don't always feel like, the swimmers don't always feel like getting in the pool every day for hours on end, or, footballers going to training or what have you. But they do it because they know the end result is worthwhile and what they're seeking.
What kind of success rate do you have with your methods?
So everyone that implements what I give them will get results in some capacity. What's important to remember that everyone's different. So everyone will achieve results at different rates. No one size sort of approach can spit out the same result for everyone, if that makes sense. So if me and you was to complete the same program, eat the same things and move the same amount, for example, we would get different results based on our age, based on our genetics, all of those things. So it's very difficult to kind of give you a definitive answer. What I would say is males within sort of 3 months tend to lose between 15 and 30 pounds if we attribute it to weight loss. And then females somewhere between 12 and 15, 12 and maybe 20 pounds, sort of real top performers. But again, people that come in that are substantially heavier have a little bit of a benefit of the people that come in smaller. So using weight loss isn't always a good example, but what people get, and then for me, the most important thing that they come out with is that they come out with a newfound confidence. And that can often link over to other areas of their life. So I've had clients come to me before and sort of feel undervalued at work, have a conversation around confidence, start to go to the gym, start to feel better, start to look better in the mirror in their eyes, ask for a pay rise and get a pay rise, and suddenly realize that they're worth way more than what they thought they were initially. So it's things like that are hard to measure, that actually are better to to hear as a coach than, a number on the scales dropping.
I'm just curious, Dale, what age people arrange in your client membership? Do you see mostly young people or just a variety of people?
Yeah, so naturally I'm 30 years old. I don't tend to attract many young people relative to me. So for me, it's people sort of approaching 30 and then beyond that. My oldest client is 69. So there is quite a wide range after that. But I don't really have any sort of, 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds. There are coaches in my gym that attract that kind of client. But I've sort of naturally sort of magnetized people sort of similar age to me. And then beyond which, for me, obviously, I'm happy with as you do that, you harness your skills in helping those people. It's important to recognize the kind of person that you sort of attract so that you can help them best.
Now, talk to us about getting fixated or hung up on scale weight once we reach our goal. So, for example, we reach our goal and then we're exercising and we get on the scale and, we're up 2 or 3 pounds. Is that something to be concerned about? Can you talk about that a little?
Everyone's got a different way of dealing with the scales. Some people react quite positive, so some people react quite negatively. So for some people, potentially weighing themselves isn't a good idea. For people who get really, as you say, hooked in on the scales and react really emotionally to those daily fluctuations or even weekly fluctuations, and especially females with the menstrual cycle, that can play a huge part in weight fluctuating. And although females experience this every month, they often don't really understand. There's no disrespect, but most people don't understand those fluctuations happen and why. And a lot of it is just retaining fluid during different parts of the cycle. And some females can fluctuate, up to sort of 6-7 pounds, like 3 kilos or however you want to sort of frame that, 3.5 kilos. And that's a lot of weight. And if you're stepping on quite frequently, and if you're comparing to, last week, for example, and, the females in a different part of a cycle, comparing to, week 4 to week 3, for example, it's not really a fair comparison. And what they maybe should do is compare week 4 to the previous week 4 and week 3 to the previous week 3.
Right.
And that would be a more accurate way of and fair way of doing it. For a male, it's a little bit different. So week to week, you can be fairly consistent with where you are. Our hormones don't fluctuate as much. But daily fluctuations can be, food volume, as I say, water retention. When we eat carbohydrates, we retain more water. So if you've had a heavy carbohydrate dominant meal, chances are the morning after that, you're going to feel and look a little bit more bloated and you're going to be heavier on the scales.
I can attest to that, Dale. After eating that bread last night. Yeah,
absolutely. That isn't necessarily bad. And an easy way to think about the scales is large fluctuations overnight aren't body fat, but fluctuations over time is probably body fat.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to think about it. But if you're someone who reacts emotionally to the scales, if you're still after the education of understanding the fluctuations, struggle to deal with it, there's other methods you can use. If it's fat loss or body composition you're aiming for, then taking photos and comparing a photo, 4 weekly or 8 weekly could work. And then also taking circumference measurements as well is a good way of doing it. But even then, you want to be taking into account the specific time that you're doing it and keeping it consistent. Because again, bloat and things like that can distort those results.
Dale, what traits do your successful clients have? What do they all have in common?
I would say the biggest thing is just a winning mindset, a strong mindset to turn up anyway. And also honesty. So I was having this conversation with 2 clients today. One person who's particularly honest and comes to me at the time of maybe having a bad week or a bad day and tells me straight away. And then there's another client who maybe will kind of go into hiding. So the best thing that a client can do after they've had a bad day or a bad week is come to me and tell me. So then I can support them, and help them. Or I can tell them what they need to hear dependent upon the situation. But if I don't hear about it, I can't help them.
Right.
So that's a really important thing to kind of be honest. But yeah, to have that drive and that discipline to kind of come in and do it anyway. But that all stems from really understanding the reason why you're doing it. So as we mentioned at the start, weight loss isn't enough. Or a little bit fitter isn't
Yeah.
enough. A little healthier. It has to cut deeper than that. I'll always ask a client, 5 to 10 times why. I want to lose weight. Why? And then why? To try and get to the crux of the real reason why that is. Because when you know and understand that, you can use that and kind of leverage that to get into that cycle of action, results,
Oh,
motivation.
that's great that you're doing that and delving that deep into it. Um, Dale, explain to us about, and I believe you do this, it's called online coaching. Who is it aimed at and how is it made up?
Eyeline coaching, did you say?
Online. Yeah.
Oh, online.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Accent.
Online. My
Online
accent.
coaching. No problem. Yes. So yes, do online coaching. Online coaching is something that's probably it's been there for a good while now, but it's sort of grown exponentially and since COVID, I think, pretty much when people haven't had access to gyms. So I offer both face-to-face and online. Face-to-face is your standard personal training session where you will come in, meet your PT at the gym, they'll take you through the session, and then you will leave and you'll probably see them maybe a couple of times a week, for example, in most cases. Online coaching is a little bit different. Online coaching, you don't see a trainer in the gym. You go in the gym on your own and you have a set program that you will follow. Online coaching is a lot more empowering because what's really important for someone when they encounter coaching is that they're not always going to need you, so that they're going to be able to go off and do it on their own. And the best way sometimes to do that is to go in at the deep end and do that. But often when you don't have the guidance, you don't know where to start, what to do, it can be daunting in the gym. So online coaching provides everything that you need with regards to what to do in the gym. You're shown how, in my case, how to do it with regards to videos. You'll be given exact sets, reps, weights, and what to do, rest periods, all of that. For every session that you do, there'll be a nutrition strategy or a diet strategy for that individual person based on their likes, dislikes, what I think is right for them in terms of, as I say, their sort of lifestyle or occupation, all that kind of stuff. And also then there's regular check-ins. So each week they would check in with me via a form that they fill in, and then they get feedback from me every week via video. Or if they need a call like we're having now on Zoom, then we'll have that call and sort of quash any problems, so to speak, or if there's roadblocks coming up in the future, then we'll put a plan together for that together. So it's basically a bulletproof plan that they just need to go away and implement. And then they've got the accountability from me to sort of hold them accountable to what they said they were going to do, essentially.
So do you have clients throughout, obviously throughout the UK, but do you have clients worldwide?
For me at the minute, it's just UK. I have worked with someone from Australia, which was kind of cool. To be fair, the time difference made it sometimes challenging to arrange calls and stuff, but we made it work, like morning and evening or evening and morning. So yeah, mainly UK, but it is available worldwide.
Okay, so anybody in our audience who wants to get a hold of you, they can get a hold of you, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Dale, what would be your main takeaway message today for people thinking about losing weight and hiring a personal trainer?
The first thing I'd say is don't wait on reaching out to someone. People will sit and wait on things for a hell of a long time. And often when people contact me, they'll say, I've been thinking about it for so long, or I've been putting it off for so long. We talked about momentum earlier and the importance of just taking action and doing something. So it would be act on it straight away. I would be, making sure that the person that you're contacting is right for you. Have a look at their content, have a look at the previous work if they've kind of displayed that, and have a look who they work with. Be honest with them and tell them exactly what it is that you want to achieve, and be honest with yourself about why you want to achieve it. As we've said, surface level weight loss isn't enough. Usually it's body confidence and things like that that can be measured in a number of ways. But yeah, be honest with yourself, take action straight away. Don't sit and wait, because the longer you wait, the harder it gets to make that contact. And the more of I like to say, is kind of the monster under the bed, which if you don't look, it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows and the thing grows. So yeah, get on with it.
Don't dawdle. Yeah, definitely. What are you most excited about going forward?
For me, I have just attended a mental health course at the weekend, and I feel much more prepared now to support my current clients with their mental health and also new clients that come to me in the future. So at this moment in time, when you ask me that question, I can't wait to present that sort of new information to my clients, and to sort of instill that as my kind of message going forward, that it's not just about weight loss. It's essentially all about how we feel. And I kind of want to be part of the movement that helps people feel better.
Dale, how can people contact you?
So if you want to check out my podcast, as you mentioned earlier, kindly, it's the Do the Work podcast. If you search that on Spotify, Apple, any of the major platforms, you can find me on there. On social media, you'll find me at the Do the Work Coach, or all one word, at the Do the Work Coach. They're the main sources. I have a website, which is www.dotheworkcoach.com. They'd be the main platforms to find me.
Okay, I will list that contact information in the podcast notes. And Dale, I want to thank you for all the great information and for being such a dedicated person trying to help people get healthier, motivated, and inspired. Your comments and suggestions to improve the podcast are always welcome. Our website is www.itsawrapwithrap.com. We're on Facebook. It's a Wrap with Rap. Email itsawrapwithrap@gmail.com. Thanks everyone for listening. Stay safe. And for now, it's a wrap.